Greetings. This is Cinco de Mayo, 2020. Here in Buckeye, Arizona. I live on the signature par 3 hole. The 6th hole, par 3 on the lake, north side of the lake. And I'm tickled and satisfied to see this tree be trimmed. And it's the beginning of the season, right here, the end of the season. We're in May, but it's good because this trimming of this tree is going to help this tree survive a monsoon. The more you can make these trees skeletons, the more they have a chance of surviving the monsoon. Okay, when they're all leafed out, which this tree will be in about 3 months, we're going to be into the monsoons in August, and in August this tree, if it isn't trimmed again, will be vulnerable to high winds. The monsoon. Now my question is, there's 2 trees over here, and now this young man is going to load all these into a cart and haul them away. Now my question is, we'll see if he does both of these trees. There's a tree right there and one behind it, and it very much impacts my view of the lake. They never trim them. That tree right there hasn't been trimmed, didn't get trimmed last year. The one behind it I don't think has ever been trimmed because it's a thorny tree. It's thorns everywhere. Whoever planted it there said, you know, they're going to have trouble trimming this tree. Well, anyway, it impacts the view of my other house, but it's a blind for the houses that live to the west of me. The more they let that leaf out, the more it protects the houses that are west of me along this line. So they're not going to touch it. Now, I'm going to concentrate the rest. You see how he's loading it into the cart? He's going to have this all cleaned up and taken away. Now, the last time I saw any trimming like that was my neighbor's yard. There's a tree inside my neighbor's yard, and I saw my neighbor tell one of the young men just like this. She called him up to the yard. They had a discussion, and that afternoon when I came out, her tree in her yard, everything was trimmed and the branches were hauled away. I assume this guy did it. That was his job that day, to trim her tree. Now, this tree protects her yard. It protects her yard. The order's been given out, don't touch those 2 trees. Leave them leafed out. The more leafed out they are, the better. Because that's a big, it protects their house, okay? The people who live to the west. Now, my biggest concern, and what I live with day in and day out, anybody out there that carries the title Golf Pro, do you know what a golf pro is? You know what a professional is? A professional means it top to bottom, vertically, top to bottom, and horizontally, left to right, that you have a thorough understanding of the game of golf. A thorough understanding not only of just the mechanics of advancing a ball or hitting a ball, but you're supposed to be an authority on human nature. You've been given a golf concession to run here, and you have to understand that it's being used by humans. Humans that have human factors. Okay, and let's face it, the human factors on golf courses for young men, testosterone men, aggressive men, is they want to play the long ball. They're not out here, they don't want to play small ball. Small ball to a golfer is, you should teach all golfers to start playing with small ball, okay? Make them all start playing from the executive tees. When you bring in a scorecard consistently that you're parring from the executive tees, now we'll teach you how to, you're done crawling, we'll let you walk, okay? We'll take the training wheels off your bike. You'd think that would happen here. It doesn't. These golf pros here that call themselves golf pros, what they do is they set up situations like I'm looking at right now. Okay? If I were to have any social event on this patio today in front of my house, just off my, here I am. If I have any of this patio could probably hold in my yard 25 people. If I wanted to have some kind of an event, if the weather was agreed, if it was the right time, and I wanted to have a event like a birthday party or a wedding, a shower, anything what I wanted to do, if I feel like if I don't make everybody constantly aware, anybody that walks out here, if I don't make them aware that there's a possibility that they could get their head taken off by a little white missile hit by a young person who has never held a golf club before, has never taken a lesson. This is his first day out here, and he's playing the men's tees. He's playing the men's tees that men would middle handicapped men would have trouble shooting par from, even come near shooting par from. Your middle high handicappers and low handicappers from that tee would have a trouble shooting a par round from there, and you're allowing people that have never played golf because they're a man, they're a male, they're young, and the most important thing of all, they gave us whatever the going rate was that day for a cart and a round of golf, where it was $20, $25, $30. After 1 o'clock, the $30 special, you come in, you say a special code word, they give you the $30 special, a cart and a round of golf. Okay? If that guy is here for the first day and he's been brought here by someone who has been playing this course for 15 years, predominantly 9 out of 10 rounds they play are here at Sundance. They've been here since it opened 16 years ago. When they were 16 years old, this place opened at 16 years old. They got their first set of clubs and they came out here and they beat balls. What? It's been now 15 years. So for 15 years, but for the first 5 years, 6, 7 years, there was no houses out here. There was no people living here. And the tribal knowledge here in Buckeye or Arizona, you're going to hear tribal knowledge a lot. The tribal knowledge is when that person gives them the money for a round of golf. When that young man and the man that brought him here who plays here regularly, when they get in the cart to start their 18 holes, they both are starting with the attitude that grip and rip. Okay, first of all, the golf course goes up to everybody's patio, everybody's property. There's no foul ball outs. This is a hitter's ballpark, especially on the 6th hole. The 6th hole, even though that we should have a place for a foul ball out, there's no foul ball out ever north of the 6th hole. You're either on the golf course in play or you're in that guy's yard. One or the other. You're either in that person's yard, and if you hit it right up to his yard, you're allowed to walk up there. Okay? I've been other places where golf is played like this. First of all, I'm getting back to being a professional. A professional knows that everybody, or every day on that golf course is a different day as far as ability. Okay, if you put a meter on every golfer as to their wisdom, their education, their protocol, their attitude, everything else. That meter wouldn't register very high out here. As far as privacy, if you asked a golfer out here, what do you think of walking in somebody's yard? The meter would peg to the high end, and he'd go, well, yeah, we walk. We're allowed to recover the ball. Wherever it goes, for 15 years, wherever that ball goes, we can drive right up onto their property. If there's not a barrier to stop the golf cart, we'll drive right onto their patio if we have to. I've seen it. I've seen people drive their golf cart up to my patio, across my property line. Okay? And this is a rite of passage because, let's face it, everybody that lives on those houses are outsiders. They're snowbirds. They're not Buckeye people. Okay? And they're not home, especially in the summer. So who's going to see me? Who's going to care if I walk on somebody's, or I walk in on somebody's patio? Now, getting back to the human element as far as golf, you're always going to have mishits. Mishits are a part of golf. They're like 60% of every swing, golf swing on this course is a mishit. It's a mishit. You got guys that can't keep it straight and in the fairway, and then you take and you put a 177-yard tee out there that potentially anybody in a high wind, anybody can get up there, and if they've hit the ball once on a driving range, 175 yards, once in a whole bucket, they went through a bucket of like 90 balls, and they only hit 175 yards once in that whole bucket. Everything else was sprayed, going here, going there, up and down. When they come out to play, they go back to the 177. They only remember, they block out all the bad shots they ever hit from that range, and they only remember the one good one, and they get up there and they try to hit a home run. As they got introduced to golf, all their friends, whenever they went out for the first time to play with their friends who had more experience than them, the friends always went to the back tees. Their ego wouldn't allow them to move up. And those type of golfers are, to me, as a homeowner and a member of the adult community here, are a complete nuisance. Now, getting back, I can't honestly have any kind of a social event. Children, if I have the children out here, I have to be here like a mother hen, sitting over the children, watching that tee box if they're out here playing. If they're out here playing, if they're sitting in that swing right here, if they're sitting in that swing with a set of binoculars looking for turtles out on the lake sunbathing, I have to sit here like a mother hen every time somebody walks up to that tee. Every time somebody walks up to this tee box right here, they are 45 yards and just offline from that child, sitting there looking through binoculars, trying to find the turtle, totally unaware that some young man, and this is where the pro comes in, Andy, I'm trying to shame you. I'm hoping I can shame you and the whole management group here at Sundance. This is encroachment. Encroachment affects my life. It's something that happens on a day-to-day basis that's affecting my life and my living here and the way I can utilize my lot. I can't utilize my lot with parties and children without having to be out here babysitting. Babysitting. This goes on day in and day out. I'm getting balls in my yard in one of the slowest periods I've ever seen here at Sundance. This is the slowest I've ever seen it as far as play goes. It's the old regulars that aren't putting any money in the cash register because they've all got memberships, and a few young people who thought they'd get out of the house and try golf for the first time. And those are the ones that are out in the afternoon. Those are the ones that are that burden my yard the most, because they're all wild cards. when you put a guy on that tee that doesn't know what he's doing, he's a wild card. Now, what we're going to witness now, I'm going to zoom in. And I've got a lot of videos like this. I hate doing this because it reminds me of Big Brother, but you got to understand, I have people walking in my yard day in, day out. Walking in my yard or walking down my property line because they're on golf course, because the golf course will not put the foul ball line or the everything's open for play right up to my thing. There are no, have you ever gone to a Major League Baseball game and seen the field set up so that every ball that the hitter swings at that's a foul ball never gets called out on a foul ball? There's never a foul ball out. You know why? Because the baselines, the third and the first baseline, grow right up to the stands. There's nowhere where a first baseman or third baseman or a catcher or a pitcher or anybody can make a play on a ball hit outside the baselines. It's a hitter's ballpark. A hitter can get up there and flail away, just keep taking bad pitches, swinging at bad pitches all day, knowing that if he fouls one, he isn't going to be out. I'm trying to get that type of logic as to why you're putting white stakes on my property line. You're putting white stakes on my property line because you're trying to give the average Joe Blow, redneck, bucolic golfer out here, you have to give them as much bailout area as you can. Those white stakes on my property line are engineered by the golf course as bailout area for shitty golfers. Anytime a shitty golfer wants to go to the back 177 yard tees on his authority, there's no vetting here. There's nobody on the first tee. I've been at golf courses in California that were where you pay $100 and some for a round of golf in a cart, okay? Very expensive, $75, $85 round, $100 round a cart. And you're met on the tee box at the first tee by a greeter. A greeter that gives you a characteristic of the golf course. Tells you a little bit about it. You might even have a trinket or a souvenir, like, you know, a free tool or something like that. Something unique that you got for your $120 round that you can take home and say it's different. Okay, I got that there. Well, we don't have that here at Buckeye, at Sundance. This is a free-for-all. This is what I call sandlot golf here in Buckeye. The inmates run the asylum. There's no interview on the first hole. There's no where there you've got an experienced old with somebody who has an interest in protecting the membership. Somebody who in their heart and soul thinks that the golf course should try to take every means to protect the people who live here. Now, since you don't want to change the layout of the course, you're never going to change the layout of the course because we did it all legal, fair and square 16 years ago, whether it makes sense or it's safe. We got all the signatures 16 years ago, and we were able to ramrod this thing through. And our biggest mantra and our only guide and our only qualification for anybody that's going to be on the board is they accept the fact that there's nothing wrong with this course. It's that status quo, the status quo attitude that we're going to leave the course as it is. No matter if this guy up there, one of these days, if one of his guests, he has to take her to the hospital, or him to the hospital, or take a child to a hospital, or I have to spend $750 to replace a window or a solar panel. This is a daily occurrence. Please, any golf pro, anybody that prides themselves, you know, we all have peer pressure, and everybody, I know when I was working in the airlines, we're all good mechanics, but I'm a better mechanic than you are. I know a little more than you do, okay? Well, somebody that knows a little bit more about running a really classy golf course, please call up the management group here and they show them how you're cheapening the game. You're cheapening the game. This is Golf Bullies. You have no intention to make my lot safe. I can't sell my houses because I'm not going to sell them to anybody until that person in their heart and soul understands that the whole time they live here, they're going to be walking point. I have to walk point day in and day out. I can't have children over here without being out here to babysit them. I can't leave them alone. And just think of what it does to every visitor when we walk out here, and I have to, before we start our meal or anything else, the first thing I have to tell them is, keep an eye on that tee box over there. If you see anybody coming up, from the moment they tee up the ball and they're getting ready to hit and they hit the ball, every golfer, keep your eye on the ball. Okay? Now, why do I have that type of anxiety, that type of anticipation? Why do I have that type of passion about this argument or this debate? Because I've had about 3,000 golf balls come into this yard. I've probably lost about over $3,000 in windows and solar panels. And I got a record now for defending my property against a trespasser. The first thing the guy said that I was supposedly assaulted, the first thing he said to the policeman, he says, I walked into his yard. I walked about 10 feet into his yard, 7 feet, and I got my golf ball. Trespass. Now, what I'm trying to get across to Andy, the board, the police, the governor, the Attorney General, anybody that knows anything and prides yourself in law enforcement. Oh, that's another thing, pro law enforcement. Pro and law enforcement can get the job done without violating somebody's civil rights. You couldn't do that. You had to violate my civil rights to stop me. And you're violating my civil rights when you send a little policeman over to my house like you did after I went to a meeting. Now, I'm trying to get across to everybody. Again, this isn't prudent golf. You're showing your golf ignorance and you're showing your golf arrogance. Arrogance. You know deep down in your heart that every day I get balls in my yard. You know deep down in your heart this is a game of screwballs. And the biggest screwballs that play golf on the planet are here in Buckeye. Because they grew up on this golf course with absolutely no respect for property lines or anybody's yard. From the minute they opened this place up 16 or 17 years ago, everybody who was a local cowboy out here got off his tractor, got a set of clubs, and proceeded to set their own friggin' rules here. Don't worry about it. We don't have to have marshals out there. We'll let the inmates figure out the protocol for the asylum. Well, the inmates out here, it was only natural that they'd be driving in everybody's yards and crossing boundaries all the time and being able to play grip and rip on this course, and they could hit as many shots out of bounds knowing that all they have to do is go up there, cross the boundary for the golf course, cross the yard lot, across the street into the next empty lot and get their ball. That mindset still exists. It still exists. The first thing that happens up here if somebody hits a ball that's, say, goes into a yard 4 yards to the west of me, the first thing that happens, and I got a video showing to you, is the golfer leaves the tee box and walks right up to the property line. The first lot in the line, walking down the line, looking in lots for golf balls. Like Johnny Appleseed here, right? Like a Viking on an airplane coming down the aisle saying, "What's in your wallet?" I don't really appreciate, you know, I made an investment here in this house, and I don't appreciate being encroached on. This is reckless endangerment. It's reckless endangerment. If somebody, hypothetical, what would happen if a child that was sitting here reading a book innocently, who would be at fault? Who would be at fault if she got killed by a golf ball? And I tried to explain to her parents. Now, if they call you up and go, "One of your golfers hit my daughter and killed her with a golf ball," you're going to say, "Yeah, well, it isn't our problem." That's not our problem. That guy up there should have told, he should have been sitting there with your daughter, guarding her. He knows, because day in and day out, he's been fielding balls in his yard since the first day he moved in here. Okay, since the first day he's moved in here, for about the first year before he had any boundary markers, people used to drive their golf carts right up to his patio. Right up to the patio, they would drive golf carts through your landscaping, over your sprinkler system and everything else. If that house looked like it was being built or it was brand new and it didn't look like anybody was home, it's fair game. Now, the reason that keeps happening and the reason that golfers always have to go into somebody's yard is the proximity of the tee box. The non-professional way that the golf course is deciding to set up this ballpark. They're setting up this ballpark so everybody that wants to play a 177-yard shot over the lake will have enough bailout area up here on the top of the hill that they can bias right in their thought. In their whole swing, they're thinking anything left is in the lake. Bias right. Swing thought right. I hope I hit it right. Guess what's right? All the way up to his property line is free play. The first base line goes right up to the stands. I can't be called out on a foul ball on the 6th hole in Sundance. I hope somebody gets to see this. I'm going to archive this. I'll put it on YouTube. I want to see how close. You want to see how close I am? Yeah, this is the lake. This is what I have for a yard. And when I talk about my patio, this. You see this round thing here? It's got a diameter. This patio is a round, exact half circle with a diameter of about 31 feet. A 31-foot diameter. So it comes out from the other patio, the covered patio, like 15.5 feet out to that point. Okay, if somebody's sitting in a rocking chair on this patio, and this spot right here is just offline, and only about 50, 60, I'd say about 70 yards away, 60 or 70 yards away from that tee box right now. Maybe 50 yards. 50, 60 yards away from that tee box, and just offline, and my property lines are even closer. Tell me if you had bought this property 16 years ago expecting that you were going to be able to enjoy this view with friends, family, the children in the family, throw parties, throw picnics, things like everybody wants to do. Try to imagine doing that on a day where you've sold 250 rounds of golf. 250 rounds of golf, and Everybody that puts the first one in the water hits another one. You're going to average, out of every foursome, you're going to have 6 shots. Because it's going to be a weekend. It's going to be a Saturday or a Sunday on the weekend. You got 250 rounds on the books. You know you're going to have a good day. But every one is, they're not the regular membership golfers. They're all new golfers, golfers from out of town. And if they're playing here with somebody that brought them here, they walk out of the clubhouse with the idea that, don't worry, if you rip one from the 177 yards and you hit that guy's house and break one of his solar panels, if it looks like nobody's home, you can walk onto his patio. If the ball comes off the roof, you can walk up there and get your ball. No problem. Just go up, get your ball, walk back on, play the course. You want? That's Sundance Golf. I just described. They talk about the 10%. The only 10% that you have here at Sundance are golfers from other places. Not from the Midwest. Midwest golfers, they're as moron as they are out here. Golfers like from New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, who are used to playing muni courses in big cities. Muni courses, this doesn't go on. This would go on for about a week in a muni course, okay? In a responsible city. The first time a kid got hit by a golf ball, and first of all, these lots wouldn't be owned by a guy with short financial legs like me. I'm kind of an anachronism here. I don't have the financial legs to own this. That's why I can't go after a lawyer, because the first lawyer puts his hands over his ears and says, I don't want to hear a thing. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil until you write me a retainer check for $20,000. As soon as you write me a check for $20,000 and sign this contract that whatever I spend over and above that, you have to spend. And most of the lawyers are very candid with me. I can tell you one thing, they're basically honest out here. They'll tell you right up front, this is going to be 2 years and $200,000 for you to fix. What's wrong with the tee box in your lots? How we're going to keep golf balls out of your lot. Your goal, Andy, and the goal of every professional, when you go into your HOA board meetings, you've got probably 2 people on that board or 3 that are pro golf. They're pro status quo. We don't touch the golf course. It was built right from the start. There's no deficiencies. There was no social engineering. There was no equity theft or equity awards. There was no entitlements set up for our friends and family. None of that shit went on. We're all status quo. Everything is legal. Those members of the board, I feel, are the ones that kicked me out of the HOA. Okay? They know what I know. Or they know I know what they know. For about 8 years, they thought, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He's totally ignorant. When he sends in us 3 checks for HOA dues and the taxes and all the taxes, he has no clue the dishonesty that was visited on him. Okay? Now this is dishonest. For you to tell me, for you to use my lot as foul ball territory and then set up the tees till they're right next to my lot, and then you don't manage the place. You should have a person on the first tee, an old, seasoned, wisdom golfer who sort of measures every golfer that comes on the Sundance, because every golfer that comes on the Sundance is a potential broken window or 2 for the membership. You got to get that through your head, membership. This isn't right, okay? This isn't right. You're in a bucolic redneck Planet of the Apes. This is Twilight Zone golf, Planet of the Apes golf. This is Viking golf, bully golf, free roaming golf, whatever you want to call it. It ain't real golf. Real golf has courtesies. And one of the biggest courtesy that you can show me is trying to protect my lot for your nickel and dime golfers here. Nickel and dime. Faux golfers. Fake golfers. Pseudo golfers. What they are is cowboys just off the ranch who nobody's ever said no to. They've never had anybody tell them no, and when I tell them stay off my yard, it freaks them out. It freaks them out. You see in the video, I didn't even tell them. All I said was, you know, the guy's walking down the property line. Oh, I guess it's your ball now. It'd be mine. If you weren't there, it would be my ball. But since you're there, it's going to be your ball now. He didn't like it. And he shoved me. He assaulted me. That's assault. It's assault. He stepped over my property line. He trespassed over my plants and pushed me and called me an asshole. Okay? That's what I put up with day in and day out. That's the attitude I put up with every Sundance golfer, especially the men's club. There's people in the men's club that, there's a guy that's got a black Mustang. It's like a 66 Mustang black replica golf cart. That guy likes to routinely drive down my property line. Whenever he thinks he thinks there may be a ball up here, the first thing he does on the way to the green is come up here to my property line on golf course property, because there's a white stake, and he exploits, or he takes advantage that he has the golf course right up to my property line. So he drives down my property line. I've confronted him before, because the whole time he's driving down, he's not looking at the course. He's not looking straight ahead. He's not looking at the course. He's looking in my yard. He's looking in my yard the whole time, and he looks in everybody's yard all the way down for about 6 or 7 houses before he turns left and heads to the green. All right? This gets kind of old. It gets old when I can't sit out here and use my yard for anything. It gets old when I have people, loved ones, people I think the world of, and I have to see and watch them see me get in conversations with golfers. I had my sister and my niece that got involved. My sister had just had her second open heart surgery, and she was out there on the line because I flipped when I told the golfer, stay out of my yard, and he gave me the wave off like, you don't understand. I'm a Sundance golfer. We walk on people's property here. You didn't get the message. You don't understand. You must be new here. And he walked across my lot like he owned it. I flipped. Anybody would flip. Anybody that had a lot of money invested would flip when you see this happening day in and day out. I finally was here. I come home to broken windows. I come here to broken windows all the time. And for a while, well, that's another story. But I'm going to stop right here. I hope that you all have a moral compass somewhere. I feel I was kicked out of the HOA in retaliation for having track day dug out. It wasn't me. I wasn't the engineer that wrote the letter. You better look to your internals. You look at Craig Hustis and Woody Scouten. I went to Craig Hustis' office as an ex-Marine. He puts on his part of his plank or his advertising scheme to be elected is he spent time in the Marine Corps in Vietnam. Well, I spent time in the Marine Corps during Vietnam, 4 years in fact. So I went into him thinking that, a brother Marine, somebody that was there when I was in, might have a moral compass and might feel that he could empathize with my situation, which he did. He went and got Woody Scouting, and Woody Scouting came out and took one look at track day and understood my career is on the line if I don't report this. If I don't report this, and if it ever gets out that I saw it and didn't write it up, it's my career. If it isn't my career, it's my reputation. It'll be my reputation among my peers in the industry. Okay? Among my peers in the industry, I kind of dropped the ball. Okay? I signed for something that wasn't there. I allowed something to happen that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay? That's why he was written up. And it bothers me that about a year and a half later, Woody, that you accepted the scheme they had. You didn't certify it. All you said was, I forget what it says on the document. The document says, you agree with the concept. You agree with the concept of putting a threshold. The way they were able to solve the tee box for themselves. The way they scuttled your language for a catch basin. There's language in your letter for a catch basin. That language got scuttled with your plan. That new plan that came out with all the pretty colors on it, and then that certification letter where you really didn't certify that it was built by the master document. What you said is you agree with the concept. What do you think your peers think about that? I'm a very technical person. I'll tell you a story sometime. That's for another morning.